Welcome back. In the previous video, we handled orienting the rotation to the movement so that it looked a little bit more natural with the character moving side to side. In this video, we're going to add an action mapping for firing the weapon. So we'd like to fire the weapon when we left click on the mouse and also when we pull the right trigger on the console controller. So first we need an action mapping. Let's go to Edit, Project Settings, Input, and we'll add a new action mapping. Let's call this Fire Button. I'm calling it Fire Button because there may be other things in the game later on that we want to happen when the fire button is pressed. Simply calling it fire implies that that button will always only ever be used for firing the weapon. So this makes it a little more general. Now, first we want the left mouse button. Now we saw that we could click this icon and select a key value. But if we click it and then click it a second time, then we get our left mouse button. So that's a nice shortcut for us. We're going to add another action mapping to this fire button group, and this is going to be the gamepad right trigger. Don't confuse it with gamepad right trigger axis. Okay, now we need a function to call when we hit the fire button. So back in Visual Studio, in shooterCharacter.h, here in our protected section, we're going to add a function called fireWeapon. It's got a void return type, and it's not going to have any input parameters. For the comment, we're simply going to say called when the fire button is pressed. Let's go ahead and let Visual Studio create a definition for us. Now we're going to define fire weapon. In fire weapon, for now all we're going to do is use a UE log to print text to the output log to make sure that it's working. So UE underscore log, log temp, warning. And for the text, we're simply going to say fire weapon. Now the last thing to do is to bind our action in setup player input component. Let's go ahead and copy what we used for binding to the jump action mapping and paste it down here, and we're going to use fire button. This is for when the fire button is pressed, and for the function it's going to be a shooter character fire weapon. Now all that's left to do is compile, and now we can test this out by hopping back into the editor. I'm going to close project settings. I'm going to open the output log here and click play and click my left mouse button, and we get fire weapon. I'm also going to grab my console controller and press the right trigger and make sure that that's working as well. So everything is working as expected, which is great. Now in the next videos, we're going to add some effects to accompany our function call, because in the game it doesn't look like she's doing anything, but we are actually firing a function with that button press. So we're headed in the right direction. We'll see you in the next video.